How often should you wash your locks? How do you correct thinning locks? Hi, and welcome to Ask Me Monday. Today, I want to tackle two questions that came in. So let's get to the first question. How often should you wash your locks? Any time you'd like. You should wash your locks as often as needed. Now, there are some things that will determine the frequency, but you should never, ever, ever be restricted from washing your hair. The only thing that will change as you embark and continue through this beautiful journey of having microlocks, the only thing that should change is how you wash your hair, that process that you utilize. Those things may need to change in the products that you use. But the actual act of cleansing your hair and scalp of dirt, oil, and debris is something that you never want to stop doing. So if you are ever told that you cannot wash your hair, that's a red flag. Every professional would tell you you should be able to wash your hair. Now, what I do want to say is if you are under the instruction of a qualified professional, they may have some adjustments to the frequency, the method that you use to wash your hair, the products that you may use to wash your hair. Those things may need to be adjusted based on your hair texture, your lifestyle, your activity level, your whatever, the different things that will impact the need and the frequency for washing your hair. But in general, you absolutely should wash your hair and you should wash it as often as needed. All right. It actually is quite beneficial to the process and it will help your hair lock. Okay. Now let's get to question number 2. And that question is, how do you correct thinning locks? I have 3 major things you want to look at when you are dealing with thinning locks. Okay, the first thing is in the realm of prevention. You never want to initiate a service on hair that is actively thinning or balding. I repeat, you never want to initiate a service on hair that is actively thinning and balding. You'd be surprised by how many times that this can possibly be done. And if that is not happening when their service is initiated, but it's happening, the thinning and balding is happening sometime along the journey. The second thing you want to do, once you identify that the hair is indeed thinning and balding, or the locks are thinning, is that you want to take a look at these key areas. You want to see if you need to adjust something that is being done technically in the process of the maintenance. The scalp tension, is it too tight? Is it being tightened too tight? Are any of the methods and techniques actually causing the hair to thin? You want to look at also the tools. It has been known in the past and even in the current time for people to have the particular tool that they use actually be a contributor to hair breakage. It can actually be painful, some particular tools. They can snag hair, it can rip out hair, and which then can lead to the thinning of the lock space, of the lock itself. Not just the tool, also, if you reference any past videos I've done when I talk about why the locks need to be in good condition, if there are hardened fat ends or a lot of hooks and crooks and bumps along the lock that are hard, that can actually also damage hair. If that is being interlocked, interwoven through, it can actually catch and rip And sometimes if people are going very fast, it can snag. You want to look at those things. And what you also want to do, if you are noticing that locks are thinning, hair is thinning, you want to do an assessment to the best of your ability about what you see. And then if it's beyond your scope of knowledge, make necessary referrals. If you're noticing that there's possibly a medical issue happening, it's possibly um, something going on dermatology wise or even mental health wise, you want to communicate that with your client if you are a professional, or if you are the person that has the thinning locks, make the assessment for yourself. And I'm going to speak from the realm that I actually am a professional in addition to doing this hair service, is as a mental health professional. I actually, there actually has been a lot of connection between hair thinning and hair loss and trauma or intense mental mentally draining or exhausting situations and life situations. Some things actually go hand in hand with stress and hormonal changes, in addition to an increased inflammatory response in the scalp, which stress also can do, which physically taxing things can do. So mind and body is linked. So when I make a unofficial assessment from my mental health background, I can also then also say, the treatment, it might be beyond my scope because I'm not a dermatologist. I'm not um, a hair loss formally trained expert hair loss specialist, but I can identify things that need to be addressed that are beyond the scope. So I always want to make sure that people are not ignoring something because they don't understand it. The very basic observation is hair loss. We can all agree. You don't need a background, in particular background, to notice hair loss, but addressing it might require something beyond our scope. So that is very important to do. Let's get to the third thing that I feel is important when you're talking about correcting thinning locks. And that would be, if you need to create a stronger foundation, you may need to combine locks. A professionally skilled or trained loctician, or if you are professionally skilled and trained, but I really feel most of the time it is better to have a trained professional, even if you are trained, to have the outside professional be able to look at that situation and be able to address that, and can determine whether um, combining it would be the best option, whether they can strengthen that entire lock by combining it, because there are some more technique than just putting two locks together, where you can actually strengthen the entire lock. You can actually decide whether you want to keep it two or make it one. There are a few ways to do that as well, where um, can keep you can keep the consistency and sizing for all the locks around it. So combining locks could also be an option if there is no other option to increase the strength of that lock before it breaks. Now, there are additional ways to also correct and address thinning locks, and that would be some more advanced technique that utilize um, could utilize the addition of hair or locks, but I don't mean slapping on an extension on a thin piece of hair. We're not for a permanent style. We're not doing that. They're going to actually further um, damage the situation. And so there are things to do that can be a temporary or a permanent solution depending on what is happening and the professional assessment that's being made. So if you notice that the area can be treated and the hair can be restored, there are some things that can be done on an advanced level temporarily to continue to have that full look or that refined finished look as the hair is healing, as the scalp is healing. there are some things that can be done. There are some things that might be able to be done permanently. I have definitely addressed and created solutions for people who had balding that had previously happened, or they had thin hair. But it was always important to go back to the first point that I said, to make sure that the hair scalp is not in an active state of thinning. And people change, life changes. So maybe what wasn't actively thinning has begun to at some point in your process. And then you have to be able to understand what's going on and then how to best address that situation without further damaging. If you're interested, I actually have another video where I'll link it, where you can, um, where I talk about thinning in microlocs, and I talk about some common causes and some solutions. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about, going a little bit more into this discussion and hearing some other ways to address this, definitely can click on um, this video and you can watch that as well. So if you have any further questions, you can always hit me up, hit us up, there's a team of us, in any of our social media platforms that you see on your screen. You can shoot us an inbox. You can email us at info@microlockmastery.com. You can also join our free Facebook group where we will stream live, and you can watch it live and can interact. You can post a question on the replay. You can post a question to the wall. So any things that might pop up even as you're watching this replay. If you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments that you're watching the replay. Let me know a little bit about if you found this information helpful, or if you even have experience or insight that you'd like to add. Just let me know in the comments. And I will talk to you again on Ask Me Monday. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.